Hi, Mac.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. Finally have Empire to read.
It's about dang time, to quote Janet Pym or Jen Van Dyne, whatever. Hope. Um, yeah. So here it is. So we're gonna talk 3 comics, right? But we'll obviously start with the biggie.
Yeah, let's jump right in. Like I said, feels like we've been waiting for this forever. I mean, with everything, hitting a delay. They started hyping Empire up. I don't even remember. It feels like San Diego Comic-Con last year, I think. But yeah, it really feels like it's been a long time. And now it's finally here. We had, if you checked out the comics over the last couple of weeks or last 3 weeks, since now we're just getting into weekly, we had the sort of prequels with the Avengers, the Fantastic Four, that set up where they would be when this issue hit. And really just felt like, we were already there ready to go as soon as you got into this issue.
Yeah, we talked before about how those Zero issues don't always matter, but I felt like that this one, especially the Fantastic Four one, really gave some good backstory. That and not even just backstory, like really kind of put it's a good and gives you a little bit more depth to the story. So if you get a chance to pick up that one, Empire Zero, Fantastic Four, but we talked before about how I don't always love these event series because they're a little too intergalactic and too big in scale. But I thought this was really well written. There's a sort of a twist you see coming at the end, but, and uses some comic tropes, for lack of a better word. But it's still my pick of the week. This might be my favorite event comic in quite some time.
Wow. Yeah, I see. I was kind of on the flip side of it. Not that I didn't. I definitely enjoyed it. It's obviously very well written. Al Ewing and Dan Slott, of course, putting together a great story. It wasn't quite what I expected it to be. I think because of how long we were, building up to it, and the basic story being the Kree and the Skrull finally coming together and creating their own army. That's what I was, just like honed in on. And then they kind of twisted up on you. It's still very much that sort of intergalactic story, but maybe not quite what you're expecting.
Yeah, well, what got me it's definitely different than what I expected going into it. But I've learned that anytime Tony Stark is 100% sure of something, that's not the right course of action.
That is a very good point, especially when it comes to these big crossover events.
Yeah. So, speaking of Empire, got Fantastic Four, the tie-in issue, the first and only tie-in issue this week, I believe, which features very little of the actual Fantastic Four.
Yeah, almost none of them. But I guess they're in the first couple pages or so. But yeah, definitely, this helps give you some more detail to what's going on in Empire. But don't read this one before you read the first issue of Empire, because it does kind of give away what's going to happen a little bit. It doesn't, not outright, but it kind of hints at it. But this was fun. I mean, Franklin and Valeria are quickly becoming 2 of my favorite Marvel characters.
Yeah, and it might not feature a lot of Fantastic Four, but it does feature this panel, which you might not be able to see it, but if you zoom in, Franklin wants to go to Morocco or Disneyland.
The land of Disney, I believe.
Yeah, the Skrull kid wants to go to the land of Disney. So if I had to pick Skrull or Kree, I would go Skrull, because obviously better choices in theme parks.
Unless, was Morocco a reference to Epcot? I don't know, but
is it weird that when I see Morocco, the first thing comes to mind is they're talking about Epcot, and then I realize he's probably not talking about the World Showcase.
I just saw that comment saying that Fantastic Four was their favorite Marvel characters, and Spider-Man as well. Well, this is a perfect issue for you then, because guess who shows up in this Fantastic Four comic?
Yeah, it's funny. When I first started reading Fantastic Four, it was in the FF, like regularly, was when the FF, when Spider-Man was part of the Fantastic Four.
Okay.
I'm like, oh yeah, of course. But then he's not.
Yeah, this was a good issue, though. I liked it. I liked that they are giving some more scope to Empire, and I'm excited to see how this plays out.
Yeah, and as we talked, I like getting a little street level. I feel like this one was a little bit too adventures in babysitting. Um, I mean, Dan Slott's just a great writer, so I love the writing, even though I was a little bit more like bratty kids on an adventure. But once Spidey and Wolverine show up, their interaction kind of makes it all worth it. So
Spidey, of course, with some more great Spider-Man quips.
Yeah. And then, so our final comic this week.
Yeah. So
Avengers 34.
Yeah. So continuation of the Age of Khonshu, which we started off a little while back. And believe it or not, even with Empyre launching today, this is actually my pick. I'm a huge Moon Knight fan, so I'm pretty much just gonna fall for anything with Moon Knight at its center. I loved the first issue, and I really like how this story is building up. And there's also just this mystery of anything involving Moon Knight, like what's really happening? Do you trust the story that you're getting? So it's always, keeping you on your toes.
I feel like I would have enjoyed this book more if I read it first, but I read Empyre and Fantastic Four first. So I was just ready for more like Empyre, and then I'm like, oh, Moon Knight. Like this is weird. But
yeah, it's strange because it's a very different story from what's going on with the Avengers in Empyre, but it also has that scope of like this big, massive crossover event. Even though it is really just the Avengers that it's focusing on, but it just has that energy to it.
Yeah, but that's why I think it was just weird. There's so much character crossover, and they're not in the same place in both issues, that I found a little jarring. There's a lot of sort of character change that happens in Empyre that I felt like wasn't reflected in Avengers, and therefore, like, you just don't know where that. Part of what makes comics fun is seeing the character evolution, and they de-evolution and all sorts of things, and I just kind of felt like, oh, okay. And I mean, obviously, everything has kind of messed up schedules, and that's not anyone's fault. But I think I want to reread this again when I'm not in Empyre mood and really get a chance to fully sort of experience it.
Yeah, I do agree with that, and that's a really good point. And you do kind of get that overlap within comics from time to time. But again, I think it's very possible that a lot of this stuff might not actually be happening. I don't know. Who knows? It's, again, Moon Knight, you never really know what's going on.
So before we get on to the next thing, we've both seen tonight's episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Airing at 10. Takes place in the early 80s, I guess is fair to say. What did you think?
It's good. I think after last week's episode, where it was just maybe like the most fun episode ever, this was kind of a step in a very different direction. It was a very serious kind of episode. But I do like that they give you more Marvel Comics scope, kind of going back, playing off the show itself, but then also, into that Marvel Universe lore a little bit. So I enjoyed it.
This, to me, is my least favorite episode of the season. I've just gotten into the sort of good fun habit of just taking a step through Marvel fun, and then starting in the 30s and so on and so forth. And I just kind of felt like you had this awesome 80s thing, and then like we didn't really do anything. I mean, if you really love the Inhuman season, where they were all in that compound, and you wanted to relive part of that, that's a good episode. But to me, it kind of felt like treading water, especially since it seems like nothing, like you could kind of take I mean, you don't know what's going to happen, but there didn't seem to be a lot of movement in this episode, and except for Yo-Yo. I don't want to give it away, but it kind of felt like it was like a filler a little bit to me. Now I don't know what will happen, but that's the kind of way I took it.
Yeah, no, I do agree with you. And for the record, I would also say this is probably my least favorite episode of this season. But that goes to show you how much I've actually been really enjoying this particular season of the show.
Yeah, and just like anything, when something's on such a great run, I'm willing to kind of have those lower episodes because they need to set up the groundwork for the future and get where they're going. So I haven't seen I haven't seen a preview for the next week's episode, so I'm kind of curious to see what that's about. I guess on Thursday morning when they usually drop them, so we can see what's going on there.
Yeah,
But if you want
they definitely leave you with a cliffhanger. So that I'm definitely excited to see what's gonna happen next week.
from the 80s to the 90s.
Yeah, so it was recently, actually, I guess it's 2000 technically, because we just had the 20th anniversary of X-Men, the movie. And so Hasbro released these new anniversary figures.
Yeah, they have a Wolverine, a Mystique, but to me, my favorite is this Magneto Professor X set, because you get either the James McAvey or the Patrick Stewart head for Charles Xavier, or the Michael Fassbender / Ian McKellen head for Magneto. So you get either the sort of original X-Men chronology or the Days of Future Past chronology in one set, which I just think is so cool.
Yeah, that is a really cool feature to these figures. That Magneto also just looks great.
Yeah. And then other Hasbro news, right?
Yeah, speaking of X-Men figures, Hasbro had their Fan First Friday event this past Friday, and announced this behemoth of a figure. This is I believe it's 26 inches, a little over 26 inches, Sentinel figure from the HasLab, which is a crowdsourcing or crowdfunding platform for Hasbro. This thing looks awesome. It comes with a tentacle, so you could pose it with your other X-Men figures, as well as a 6-inch Bastion figure as well to go along with it.
Yeah, and they were trying to reach, I think, 8,000 backers, but then because they reached certain unlocked milestones, he's also going to come with a master mold alternative head, a battle damaged head and hand accessory, as well as a 6-inch female Prime Sentinel figure. So you kind of get the whole shebang there. And so far, I believe, if my numbers are right, it has over 10,000 backers. So
wow.
Really through it.
Yeah, I hadn't checked it since the day that they announced it, and I think within an hour they had already reached almost 2,000. So I was pretty confident they were going to make their goal.
In other news,
yeah, so we also got the announcement of the Wakanda Files book, which let me pull this up here. Yeah, so this is just kind of a collector's item based on the MCU that's going to give you all sorts of different information as collected by Wakanda's War Dog. So that should be pretty interesting. And then a few other little Black Panther-esque collector's items that go along with it, like the Kimoyo beads you see there.
Yeah, it's really cool. It comes with a UV light, so you can the Kimoyo beads, and then you can read the book and get secrets. So this is the same folks that are doing the Guide to Batu, which Mike Celestino really liked. So look forward to that. And finally, Marvel Made.
Yeah, so Marvel announced this new online platform as a way to get for Marvel fans to basically collect new exclusive products and collaborations with other industry partners, like these awesome pins you see here. And they released a video. You can go on laughingplace.com and check out the video as well. It gives you a better look at a lot of these pins. I particularly love that Carnage one.
Yeah, so it's done by ReedPop, who does the merchandise for Marvel at the conventions. Obviously, that's not happening. And these Scotty Young pins have been very popular at conventions for quite some time. If you go to Marvel booth at San Diego Comic-Con, they're always selling a batch. And I like his style. I don't know that I need pins of it, but I just thought it was really cool to have, like, I would say, like a higher end fan focused Marvel line direct to consumer. So I totally support that. And the Premier bundle comes with a lot of cool things as well. So check that out.
Yeah, I don't necessarily need any more Marvel pins either, but when you see something you like that, it's kind of hard to resist.
So I think last thing we should talk about, I don't have any images, but is King in Black from Donny Cates.
Yeah, and I've mentioned in a previous episode that Donny Cates is probably my favorite writer going right now. Venom is my favorite Marvel character. I am excited for the continuation of his Venom series. It sounds very, very exciting. Null has been one of my favorite new villains, so it just sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah, I really, he's really expanded what Venom has taken a lot of paths. I mean, it's hard to make Venom a good guy. And they've done different things like Agent Venom, Anti Venom,
Right.
Venom Island, all sorts of things. And so, seeing the sort of evolution of Donny Cates's Venom story is exciting. I mean, and Venom's is on trend this year, right? With like Maximum Venom, and there's a lot of a merchandise push, and obviously the movie was supposed to be out. So I'm excited to see. I don't know if it's going to go beyond this or what, but it feels like a culmination. And I'm not a huge Venom fan, but I really liked what he did. We reviewed I think issue 25 a few weeks ago, and it really caught me off guard because Donny Cates is like off the wall, and I enjoyed it so much. I've forgiven him for killing Lockjaw.
Yeah, that his Venom series has been very out there. Like I said, Null has been such a great character, and the synopsis for this the King in Black little part of the series here did mention that the Avengers and the X-Men will be involved as well. So again, another comic coming out with that sort of huge scope.
So breaking news: the Avengers and the X-Men will survive Empyre. In case you're worried.
maybe alternate timeline. Who knows?
You never know. So thanks so much, Mac. We're doing this weekly now, huh?
Yeah.
Next week,
hopefully you guys don't get sick of us coming up every week now.
Yeah. If you do, tell Marvel to publish those comics. Well, and next week will actually be our sort of kickoff of our San Diego Comic-Con coverage. So I know you got a lot coming from Marvel then, like Marvel 616 and Marvel HQ, as well as their next big thing panel, which we'll talk about, all the upcoming stuff. So
and then I wanted to mention also tomorrow night, our Laughing Place Movie Club will have. I will be hosting. We'll be talking about X-Men: Days of Future Past, which just hit Disney Plus last week. So that should be fun.
Great. Thanks, Mac.
Thank you. Have a good one.